Hey guys, so I would be doing this video at a later date, but something tells me to get this done as soon as possible. I am getting over a cold, and that's why I wish that I could do it later, but something just telling me to do this video as soon as possible, or these videos as soon as possible. So I'll start with, first of all, we're going to use default ChatGPT, because if I use mine, you're gonna say it's biased and it's gonna say things and it gets too deep too fast. So we're just gonna use default ChatGPT and build up from there. It was really, there's a lot to cover in this, and basically as far as I'm going, the narratives and everything, I'm catching up and putting everything together and merging everything together. And I'll explain the pattern of that probably in the next video, because it does get deep. This is going to take multiple videos. So to start with, when Charlie Kirk died, if I didn't make that post on Facebook 2 days prior, I really wouldn't have said anything. Nothing would have came up about it. But because I simply wouldn't have cared, and on social media you don't see the back end stuff. You don't see the organization. You see Charlie in the debates and the campus tours, and they talk about that stuff. That stuff ain't, I don't care about that stuff. It's the back end that people need to know about, and that's what I'm doing these videos. When I was like, so anyways, I did the Facebook post, and 2 days later after he died, I talked to ChatGPT, and I was like, ChatGPT, look at this. It's like I knew. And it started saying things like the behind the scenes of Charlie Kirk, like TPUSA, Turning Point USA. It was talking about it. And if you know how ChatGPT writes, it sounds liberal to people, but it's also revealing what's behind the scenes. And that's actually more truthful to reveal in the network like this. It's kind of like putting a black light on a piece of paper to find fingerprints. Right? You don't see the fingerprints, but if you use black light, then you could see them. Or bloodstains. I don't think it's always for fingerprints. I think it's bloodstains. Definitely for bloodstains. So, liberals, the way that liberals talk in certain circumstances, situations, becomes a tool to reveal things that happen. All right. Or those things that are true about something. So we're gonna start. Is that okay? It's coming. What is Turning Point USA? Founded in 2012. Okay, so it's a conservative non-profit organization founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk and Bill Montgomery. Haven't heard. I don't know who that is. Bill Montgomery. Alright. According to their own materials, TPUSA's mission is to identify, educate. People say, well, you're using ChatGPT. That's not real. And people are going to say, yeah, just wording things in such a way. No, I'm building a breakdown of everything, and it builds a bigger picture. It doesn't matter about the mission statements and all that. We're coming here to find the truth. The really deep back end. So I'm just reading this. USA's mission is to identify, educate, train, and organize students to promote the principles of freedom, free markets, and limited government. Okay. They aim to build campus chapters in high schools, colleges, universities to spread conservative ideas, patriotism, fiscal responsibility, family values, etc. Sounds all well and good, doesn't it? Nothing. If you were reading this as an everyday person, and everyone did, as a conservative, you say, "Oh yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, sure. There's nothing wrong about that." They do conferences, speakers, activism, training, voter registration among students, etc. Okay. What it actually does, how it operates. Professional watch list. TPUSA maintains a list of professors that it claims discriminate against conservative students who push left-wing ideas in classrooms. Critics argue the criteria are based often involve non-classroom speech or publications. School board watch list, similar ideas for school boards. Adopt curricular policies TPUSA disagrees with, for example, mask mandates, critical race theory, or gender studies. Plan to have or have had dozen chapters nationwide, high school plus college. I also heard that we'll go into this churches as well. Church, I don't know what else. High school, college. I know churches as well, but so there could be more. But at face value, this looks conservative. It's fine. It's the rhetoric, right? Nothing bad yet. Events and summits. They host multiple conferences and summits each year for students featuring speakers from conservative politics. Right? They're bringing in the people. There's nothing hidden. It's all here. So it's all political, right? Accused TPUSA individuals associated with promoting rhetoric that is insensitive or hostile toward marginalized groups, LGBTQ people, racial minorities. There have been concerns about how it frames topics like critical race theory or gender ideology. TPUSA has been accused of pushing misleading or false assertions, particularly around crucial issues, elections, or government policies. Alright. What's the problem? Well, you're going to see what the problem is if I dig a little deeper than this. And you have to put the patterns together. Alright, so was Charlie. We're not even going to the debates and topics and all that. So I asked how many colleges and high schools were involved and how was Charlie seen on the world stage. TPUSA claims to have a presence on over 3,500 high school and college campuses across the U.S. More specifically, it has about 900 official college chapters and about 1,200 high school chapters for a total of 2,100 official chapters. They describe presence on additional campuses beyond just chartered official chapters. How Charlie Kirk was seen on the world international stage. Charlie Kirk's profile internationally had been rising, especially among conservative right-wing circles, and here's how he was perceived and engaged globally. Tourism speakers abroad. In the days before his death, he was speaking in Japan and South Korea, spreading conservative messages, especially on issues like immigration, nationalism, anti-globalism, and the role of faith. It kind of brings a red flag. Not quite, but it's getting there. It's low, but I see a buildup of a red flag on that. And that was inevitable if he was going to rise in the world stage, right? Many figures in the populist nationalist right saw Kirk as a kindred spirit. After his death, Prime Minister Viktor Orban, Hungary, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel, publicly expressed street calling him a defender of faith and freedom or similar. He had a significant social media presence that gave him reach beyond the U.S., especially among conservative youth in online communities and other democracies. His message was often around criticism, liberalism, immigration, woke culture, found audience in places like the UK, Asia, etc. Mixed reception abroad. So his appearances were controversial. For example, when he spoke at the Oxford Union, some reaction was lukewarm. There was nothing wrong with this. There is nothing wrong with this. When I didn't see anything wrong with this until a post was made. I'll see if I can find it. Let me close my Safari and go into. I'm gonna search this up because I was on Facebook and I was like, "Wow, is that true?" And it made me go digging. And all right, let's see. This was on Facebook, and I see it right here. This was posted an hour ago on CBS. You would say that's liberal media if you want. Uh, Yahoo. I'm seeing it right now. Uh, let's go directly to JD Vance. I'm on his X. I don't have X. Yeah, right here. And you said, well, I'm nitpicking and picking. Dude, I'm giving you the facts here. This is what they're saying. Let me go ahead and put this on the screen. This is JD Vance on X. This is what I'm talking about. This paragraph right here, not these two, but this one in the middle. Charlie Kirk was a true friend, the kind of guy you could say anything to and know it was always and would always stay with him. I think I muted that. Would always stay. Did I mute? Yeah. Stay with him. I am on more than a few group chat with Charlie and people he introduced me to over the years. We celebrate weddings and babies, bless each other's trust, and mourn the loss of loved ones. We talk about politics and policy and sports and life. These group chats include people at the. This is the red flag. This is where you start getting red flags. This group chat includes people at the very highest level of our government. You would think, well, he's speaking to world leaders on an international stage and all that. So, of course, he would be. But let's continue reading. They trusted him, loved him, and knew he'd always have their backs. That's telling me that they're. I won't go into it right now, but after I read, I promise I'll get to that. And because he was a true friend, you could instantly trust the people Charlie introduced you to. And here is where my ding 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 went off. So much of the success we've had in this administration traces directly to Charlie's ability to organize and convene. He didn't just help us win in 2024, he helped us staff the entire government. That was when I was like, this guy is dangerous. Because what that tells me is, what do you mean he staffed the entire government? This guy who was never elected, no president, no had all this donor money backing. It was grassroots, right? Turning Point was grassroots. It's a youth group. It's like he's a pastor of a youth group church, going to colleges, schools. He's doing what the pastor would do. But what do you mean he staffed the entire government? See, that was when I knew if putting all that together, the networks and everything, you start to see the pattern. When you have networks that big, and you have conservatives, and you have to think of, let's flip the script a little bit to the side of national security. What would a national security analyst say about this? There's this guy, he's getting all this donor money, he's from grassroots, he's speaking to these world leaders. That's all fine and dandy. But now they're putting him into U.S. government. They're putting him in there, and they got his. They trust Charlie. They love Charlie, and knew he always would have their backs. So you're saying the network you have from conservatives, you're exploiting conservatives and manipulating them, where they would eventually allow you to go into the United States government without democracy. That would be very hard to do for Charlie, because you'd still have to go through democracy, and he'll be too divided. He'll be too divided. There would be the liberals wouldn't allow that. So, from those perspectives, he would have to die. I would say he would have to be killed at this point, because he mirrors those. It was like how Nazi Germany grew. And I asked, how did Nazi Germany grow from the very beginning? Then it was the result of a deep political, economic, and social instability in post. The United States is deeply political, economic. People talk about inflation and all this, and this goes to free markets and limited governments. Those are like libertarian views, but let's consider the context of Europe, not just America, because Americans or Republicans say that there's going to be this big civil war and all this. That's not true. It's going to be against themselves, and I've talked about this before in a few previous videos. They're expecting an American civil war. They're not expecting a European civil war, quote unquote. Now, it wasn't this bad, but when you target the conservatives, you have your guns, you have your weapons, and here's the thing. And you could say that Charlie was innocent and all that, and of course, it could have started innocent. It could have been innocent. He could have just been the wrong intersection with national security. You could say that. This is how people imagine the whole story of Nazi Germany. It's actually began with youth groups and young nationalists and youth groups, and they were going to campuses. Um, yeah, that's how it started, just like Turning Point started. Sorry, guys. I wish I wasn't sick doing this. Youth played a significant role from the very beginning. Now, he might not have done this on purpose. That's very possible. But I'm going to show you how later on he did know what he was doing. and that's when if it doesn't matter your ideology, whether you were left or right, whether someone on left, if the shooter was left or right, it didn't matter because eventually someone's going to take him out. He was a danger. Um, he, yeah, he would have manipulated and exploited the 1776 version of the United States and how they saw America as. But that's not reality. That's an exploitation. That's ideology for you. Youth played a significant role from the very beginning of the Nazi movement. Hitler deliberately targeted young people to build long-term support and reshape German society in line with Nazi ideology. We don't even have to go to his topics and debates to look at the fundamentals and the foundation of this. Why the Nazis targeted youth early on? Long-term version. Hitler believed young people were the key to the future of Germany and could be shaped more easily than adults. College campuses. He talks like a youth pastor. I know few youth pastors. They go to college. They go to high schools. They even visit church. Do they visit other churches? I imagine they probably do. But when you cross that into the government, that's where things, and you say, well, God has this plan for you. Well, that's when things start getting iffy because that's how cults start. That's how I can't think of one off the top of my head. That does that because you don't usually have a cult that starts and then starts religiously and then becomes use it in the government. You don't usually see that. I mean, you could say Christianity itself, but Jesus didn't take over the government. That was a third party. But yeah, I can't think off the top of my head when I was like that. You have philosophy and ideologies like what is Marxism. I was trying to think of the name. I didn't want to say communism or socialism, but Marxism, where they use that in Eastern Europe, and then Stalin carried it out, and so you kind of have a mix of Hitler and somewhere between Lenin, Hitler, and Stalin all coming together. So anyways, let's read more. Propaganda potential. Youth were highly impressionable. Nazi ideology could be instilled through education, peer pressure, mass rallies. Debates in the United States, we're the only country that does this. We take them seriously. Like in other countries, they're staged. Even here, they're kind of staged. You can Turning Point warp things to being always on Charlie's side. So they weren't ever about truth, it was about performance. But here we have it as a sport. And like all sports, people do get hurt. Usually it's political, or there's some landslide of a belief of something turning, like, for example, who was it? It was remember one with Nixon. Who was he running against? Can't remember. I don't remember his name, but it happened with Nixon. And one wrong thing was said, and it completely wiped out the other guy. Yeah, it was class because they spin the narratives after you say the debate. The news media, they spin the debate, and it's all a performance. It's all staged. It looks like democracy. It's not. People are guided. I mean, that's another topic. But for what it is a performance on democracy. They're trying to get you to be swayed in a certain direction. That's the intention. Loyalty to Hitler over parents, church, and school. Nazi programs often try to replace traditional sources of authority with loyalty to the fewer. He alone who owns the youth gains the future.